Okay, we are racing on Forza 6, or actually driving. This isn't a race. On the Ferrari Italiana on Mazda, the short track. And as you can see, I'm struggling a little bit at first. I have, let's see, the settings are the wheels at 900 degree rotation, normal driving, and stability control on, ABS on. This car, I tried driving this car without stability control on. It's impossible. Every time you turn, it spins out. So put that on. I later tried it with Sim, and I was actually able to keep somewhat in control with Sim. And of course, if you have it on Sim, you get more credits when you drive the car in races. So if you don't have a wheel, I'd probably advise against it. The wheel is really what makes it possible. Speaking of the wheel that I'm using is the Thrustmaster TX Ferrari Italiana, and it looks pretty much like the wheel you see in the video. Of course, they get a little clever, and the stop-start button is your D-pad, and I'm not quite sure what that little switch thing does on the lower right. But the four buttons are your, A, B, X, and Y buttons. And it looks pretty much like that. So it's kind of a cool wheel. The only issue I'm having with that is trying to mount it. The rig I had, the plate that you mount your wheel on, worked fine with the Logitech G27, but the mounting bracket that they give you for the Thrustmaster doesn't work quite so well with it. It basically hits into the same place as the tubing is, so I'm literally having it rest on the tubing. So what's probably going to looking at alternatives such as a wheel stand or something like that, where I can actually hard mount it and keep it steady. And the wheel stands are pretty much designed for the particular unit, wheel unit that you have. So that's a good alternative, especially if you don't have a lot of room or you don't want to spend a lot of money. It lets you have a stable base for your wheel, but without taking up a lot of room or costing $1,000 or something like that. The nicest ones, I would say, they range from maybe $130, $140 to the one one of the ones I'm looking at is $250, but it could be the basis of an entire rig. So a lot of people like that one for that reason. And as you can see, I'm getting a little bit better. You notice that these corners are a little tricky. I have to slow down to about 40 miles an hour, whereas on the straightaway I get up, you'll see, to about 150. The other thing I noticed with this car is if you get a little out of control, it's a little bit of effort to get back in. You're kind of ping-ponging around a bit before you actually get back into control. So, and you can see I slowed down here to about 50. It's a bit wider turn, and I can get up back to 150 miles an hour before I have to slow down for those initial turns. You see, once you cross the start-finish line in this car, you have to almost immediately start braking. When I drove this track with the BMW, it wasn't quite as fast a car, so I had a little bit more time before I actually started braking. But you see, I get down to like 50 miles an hour here, 40, 50 miles an hour, because there's like this series of narrow turns. So here I go on the straightaway, and you can see I can get up about 150 miles an hour before actually I got up to 160 before I had to hit the brake and get back down to about 50 miles an hour. So I got down to 40, making that turn. So this is an interesting track to practice on. That's one thing that Forza gives you a wide variety of things to do. You can collect cars, tune cars, paint cars, and of course race, or just drive like I'm doing. You can race with other people. You can race against drivatars. You can do a rivals thing where you're trying to essentially beat someone else's time on the same track. I find I really want to know what I'm doing with that car and that track before we go into a multiplayer session, because the last thing I want to do is ruin someone else's race. That's they get upset. It totally makes it not fun. Not makes it very stressful. So it's supposed to be fun, and if I wreck someone else, then that takes away the fun. But and I understand a lot of people do go into leagues and such in Forza because they're dealing with like-minded drivers who, because some of the random races can be a bit of bumper cars. And you can see as I go, I'm getting a little bit more comfortable with this setup. I think my best time on this was about 55, 57 seconds to get around. I was a bit slower when I did the BMW, but you can see this is a pretty fast car. Kind of fun because I'm not going to be driving a Ferrari in real life, so I think I'd be a bit nervous driving a Ferrari in real life because I know those things are very expensive, and you do not want to crash that. But they're great to look at. And I think we're going into my last lap here that I'm going to show you. I have actually, one time we went out to lunch at work, and the hotel that we went to lunch at was having a little bit of a Ferrari convention, and unfortunately we couldn't go and enjoy the cars because we had to get back. Another time I went to take pictures at a local shopping area, and they were having a Ferrari show, so I got to see a bunch of beautiful cars that day and photograph them. So, as we're finishing here, we're doing the last turn. I'm really enjoying Forza. I enjoy the collecting. I want to learn how to tune. Painting's fun. Driving the cars is fun. So, if you like cars, I'd highly recommend it. So, take care, and hope you enjoyed the video.